I've seen some things. People come and people go. I've seen the colors autumn brings, and how winter rain turns into snow. But this I know for sure, though seasons change, I must endure, for you promised.
So today we're going to talk a little bit about season change. And we're going to start with Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 1. Ecclesiastes chapter 3, verse 1. To everything there is a season and a time to every purpose under the heaven. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to pluck up that which is planted. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to break down and a time to build up. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to cast away stones and a time to gather stones. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to get and a time to lose. A time to keep and a time to cast away. A time to rent and a time to sow. A time to keep silence and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time of war and a time of peace. You know, there will always be changes in our life, and there is a time for everything and a purpose for everything that's in our life. And one of the things we have to know, that if we are a child of God, then we have to believe that our steps are ordered by God. So we have to believe that everything that takes place in our life is that time and that season for it to take place, if we are serving God. And that's why I always say we have to stay at a point in our life that we're always serving God, because if we get to the point that we disconnect from God, then we allow the adversary to take over our life. So then at that point, he's pulling us and he's guiding us and he's directing us. So we have to get to the point in our life that we're always holy and righteous unto God, knowing that he's always going to be the one ordering our steps. So no matter what takes place in our life, we're okay with it. That we're content in any aspect of our life because we know he's the one doing it. So there's no need to complain. There's no need to bicker. It's like, this is for whatever reason, this is what God would want with us in our life. And that's why we need to be joyful in whatever season that takes place. And we can't look at the season that we're in and then get all bent out of shape and say, well, this is happening, life's not going right, nothing good ever happens for me. Because we have to look at life like God sees life. We have to, when we're looking at our life, we have to see our life as, how does God see me? What does he have in store for me? Well, God says he has great things in store for me. The plans he has for me, he says, are great. That's what he says. That's what his word says. So I know whatever he has in store for me is something awesome. Now, I may not see it now because I may be in this season at this stage in life, but that doesn't mean I'm not getting there. It's like when you're in, and it doesn't happen much here in Arizona, but if you're from the East Coast, you see the seasons that change. You see winter and fall and spring. Here, you know, you go through seasons, you may not even know you went through it because it kind of stays the same kind of. It still is a change here, but it's not as drastic as back on the East Coast. But the point that I'm making, if you're on the East Coast and it's snow, we know that that's only going to be for a moment. We know that the winter months is going to leave and eventually summer is going to come. Even though we don't see it, we still know it's going to take place. So it may not be a month that you enjoy. It may be cold. You might prefer the summer months or whatever. But you still have something to look forward to, because you know the summer is going to come. It is going to get nicer outside. I don't have to be all dreary and upset because I'm not staying in this month for the rest of my life. It is going to change. And we need to look at that when we look at seasons, because the Bible said there will always be changes in life. As long as we have breath, there's always going to be things in life that you do. He said that's why it says, you should reap, you should sow, and you should reap. Because there's always going to be that time where things take place. And that's why it's real important that even when we're talking about the sowing and reaping, if you don't sow anything, there is nothing to reap. If you stay at a point in your life that you're bickering and complaining or manipulating or lying or whatever it is you're doing, when that season comes, that you will reap. Because that season will come, because the word says it's going to come. What do you have to reap? Bitterness, complaint, emptiness. What is it? You didn't plant anything. You didn't plant love. You didn't plant joy. You didn't plant peace. You didn't put that out there. You don't have it to reap. It's whatever you plant, because the word, like I said, the word cannot lie. So when we're at a point in our life that it seems like we may not be as happy as we want to be, or things are not the way we want them to be, you still can give God praise. You still can uplift Him. You still can be thankful, because you say, well, this is just a season I'm in. Because God has so much more in store for me. In my eyes, when I'm looking, this is what I see. But I know there's so much more. So tomorrow, anything can take place tomorrow. Your life can be turned upside down within a moment. You can run into somebody in your life, and at that moment, your whole life can just flip-flop upside down, for the good or for the bad. Things take place. And that's why you always should be content at where you're at and not try to just push life through. There's always something great you can find within the moment that you're in, if you're looking for it. You can find negative within that moment, or you can find goodness within that moment. But we should be thankful for whatever season that we're in. But no matter whatever, if you believe in Christ or you don't believe in Christ, your life is going to change. We were all born into this world, and we were born into this world as infants. When you see it a lot when you see little kids, you see how life changes so quickly, so quickly. When you see an infant child, and then within 2 months they've changed, and 3 months, and the 4 months, those first years they've changed so much, learned so much that wouldn't have known then. And then before you know it, they're in school, then in college. While their life's changing, your life is changing too. Then they get married, and then before you know it, you're a grandparent. And you've built your life, or you look at your life when you've worked. When we're young, we're thinking of dreams and businesses and things that we want, and we're working hard for it and working hard for it. And then eventually it comes to pass, and you're successful and you're prosperous and all this and that. But then you're getting older, and before you know it, someone else has your business. If it's really prosperous, someone else has it. You're not going to do it. There comes a time you're not going to do it, and before you know it, you're dead. It's done. It's over with. The fact is, it happens, and you can look at it whether it's negative or it's positive or whatever. Life is what we make of it. Each day we should live it as if it was your last day. We should always show love. If you want love, you should always show love, because it will come a time that you're going to get it back. You don't know if this is your last day. And that's why when I was speaking a couple weeks ago about when we have things inside of us, do the things that bring you joy. Don't listen to what people say about your life. They didn't create you. They didn't make you. They don't know what's inside of you. Half of us don't know what's inside of us. But if there's things inside of us that we want to go after it. Because we're only here for a short spell, like a vapor. Before you know it, it's gone. 100 years from now, nobody remembers you. And they may not remember your children or your loved ones. You're gone. Think back about the people, like I've said before. Does all of us really know our great-great-great-grandparents? We've heard stories of them, and some of us haven't even heard stories of them. You can ask people, you go back, so they don't even know their names. I don't remember what their name was. But you would think it would go on and on, that would just carry on, and they could have been great people, wonderful people that actually made a change in society. But we don't know about it. Whatever you're doing now, 100 years from now, people may not know it. If you've created a major company or something, the name may be there, You see names now that exist when you buy store-bought things, certain names that have been around for years. You know the name of it, but you don't know the person that created it. Everybody's gone that started that. It's just a business that was passed down to somebody else. That's why it's very important to see what's really important in life. What really means anything? What's really important in your life? The only thing that will last in life, the only thing that will last that you can stand on and you can trust is the Word of God. That's it. That's the only thing. The Word will never change. It will never change. You can rely on people, you can put your trust in them, but it can change. People could have good intents to really do something. You put all your eggs in one basket and believe this person is going to help me. This person is going to help me build my company, be there for my family, whatever it may be. You just totally trust them because they seem like they could be trusted. And then the next day the Lord takes them home. And you've invested into a person because you don't know when it's done and over with. You invest in the companies and then companies shut down. The only person you can trust in is Christ. That's the only person that you can trust in because he never changes. He's the same yesterday, today, and forever. And he has great things that he has in store for us. Great things, but we have to trust him and believe that it can come to pass. I believe whatever we really want in life, it can happen because the Word says. I believe that. But when you want great things in life, you have to have great faith. You have to have great faith. The one big thing is you have to believe big. And you have to believe without doubting. That's why you can't let people come to you and feed you negative things. You can't hold on to negative things that people are telling you. You have to rebuke that. It's like, I don't even want to hear it. I don't hear it. You can go to somebody and tell them something, and before you even finish telling them everything you're going to tell them, they're already breaking down what you're saying. How you should change it, or why it cannot happen like this, or why you can't be there, because they're already analyzing. They know the best way. But then again, you ask them, well, what's your plan for your life? What are you doing? Where are you going? They don't know. They don't know what their plans are. They don't know, but yet they can break down your dreams and your vision. And the thing about it is, we hold on to what they say when they didn't create you. They didn't make you. They don't know what God has in store for you, but yet they can break down what you're saying because it seems too big for them. And we serve an awesome God, but yet we think little. We think so small. If we can't see it, we can't believe it. We have to see it. If we don't see an income coming, then we can't create that. If we don't see enough people to help us, we can't do it. If we don't see that there's people that love us or in our corner, then we think we're unlovable, we're unlikable. We're living our life according to how people are seeing it. But yet we serve an awesome God, and it's how does God see me? That's how you should look at it. What does he think about me? When you think of God, when he looks at you, what does he think about you? He loves you. He created you. He knows what he's doing. He has a purpose and a plan for you. You have to get to the point you can believe in yourself. So many people don't even believe in their own self. That's why it's so easy for other people to criticize them and their dreams and their vision because they don't even believe in themselves. You ever try to constantly encourage people constantly, and then you get them up there for that moment, and then you come back a month later and they're way down again, and then you try to bring them back up because they can't believe in themselves. Because people didn't put things into them. That's why you need to be around people that are going to encourage you, uplift you, or you don't need to hear the thing they're saying. Just like today when Thomas was reading Philippians, and I want to go to that for a minute. That was actually one of my scriptures, but it was speaking all of that. Philippians, I'm not going to read all that he read, but Philippians, I am going to go in chapter 4. Philippians chapter 4, I'm going to read 8 and 9. Philippians chapter 4, 8 and 9. It says, finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, and whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of good report, If there be any virtue, if there be any praise, think on these things. And it says, whatsoever things are of good report. When somebody comes to you with something good, something positive, think about that. If somebody's bringing you something negative, something discouraging, something that brings you down, erase it from your mind. Erase it. You know, even in here, he's telling you, think on those good things, those things that can build you up, that's things that bring life, not things that are negative, that's tearing you down. If someone's coming to you to tear you down, are they being sent to you from God? And they're saying, I'm just thinking the best of you. I'm just telling you, it's not going to work. You need to get into another career. You don't have enough. You need to wait. You need to do this. You need to do that. What you need to do is when people are telling you that, it's like, you know, I'm going to take it to the Lord. I'm going to see what God has to say. Because ultimately, he knows what's best for your life. Nobody knows you better than him. But here it says, you know, think when the things are of good report. When somebody brings you something good, it may be far-fetched and it may be like, but you can at least think on it. Pray about it. Hey, that's a good thing. That would be great if it would happen. Think about it, pray about it. But if someone's bringing you something totally negative, erase it. Erase it. Because God has great things. The things that he thinks of us are good things. Amen. And if he's thinking good things of us, we should at least be thinking good things of our own self. So why are we receiving negative things that people put on you? You can't take that, and if you're not cautious, you actually will take that and carry that, and before you know, you have so much baggage on you that you're carrying around so much, and it's weighing you down. Before you know, you don't even want to step out in what you're doing. You ever have great thoughts and you're all excited about doing something, and as days go on and you start thinking of negative, and before you know it, you done switched up. You say, well, maybe this isn't what I want to do. Then you think of doing something else. People that keep flip-flopping from things to things, they never get nothing done. Because before you know it, you're putting a lot of time into this, then you're putting a lot of time in here, then you're putting a lot of time here, then you're putting time there, you're changing, and nothing is getting done. Nothing is getting done. You got to pray to God, and you got to ask him, what do you want from my life? What is it that you want from my life? Keeping in mind that anything you do in your life, he should be getting the glory out of it. So if you're thinking about you getting the glory out of it, and you're not even thinking about Christ getting the glory out of it, then you're already on the wrong path in the first place. And it's not just doing things that we see as like church things, because like I said, you can have restaurants, you can have anything that God can get the glory out of. You can open up any type of business, any type of anything, God can get the glory out of it. And like I've said so many times, we need to be reaching out there for the world anyways. You can't just stay in a church world, as we say church, so our spiritual people, that little realm that we stay in, and expecting to help people or help people to get saved. And the people that you're dealing with are already saved. They already know the Lord. And you're not reaching out to the people that are hurt and are empty and are broken or down and are miserable, that don't know another side, but yet we can't get near them because we're too holy to be near them. You got to reach out to the world. But when you're reaching out in the world, you're not waddling in the world. You're not being about what they're about. You're reaching out and you're letting your light shine. You're letting your light shine, because just a little light that you shine reaches out to so many people. You ever go into a room, a big gigantic room, and it's pitch black, and if you light a match, a little teeny match, you can see that from one to the other. So our light shines in a dark world. We will shine even though there's a lot of evilness around, there's a lot of ugly around us, we can still shine in this dark world if we allow Christ to be in us. Because if we don't allow Christ to be in, we're just like the world. We can say what we want to say, but if he's not inside of us and we're not living for him, there is nothing shining. When you go into the midst of a room, you're just like everybody else. You don't stand out. So no one's seeing what you're doing. But if we can go into a midst of an ugly world, and it's a lot of ugliness that's around, and the word says it's going to get worse. You know, we can hope for what we want and pray for what we want, but the word still stays the same. And the word says in the end days, it's going to be worse. So it may look bad now. 10 years from now, 20 years from now, 50 years from now, it's getting a lot worse. It's getting a lot worse. So we have to be that light. We have to be that vessel that Christ can use. We want to start doing things in life that we can say, God is still alive. In the midst, even when companies are shutting down, God is opening companies. Even when people are losing, God is still blessing. He's still God. When you read all the stories in here, when you go back in the Old Testament, even when they had famine, even when they had things, God was still blessing his people in the midst of it. We're getting caught up in what we're seeing on news and what's taking place, and it is taking place. It's not a lie. We're seeing what we're seeing. Things are happening. Things are looking bad, but we don't have to worry about it. We can still be blessed while things are going wrong. God can still take care of you in the midst of it, but not if you're acting like the world. Because if you're acting like the world and you're living like the world, you're getting caught up with everything the world's getting caught up. So we have to be different than the world, knowing that we are not of this world. Like, I'm here, but hey, I'm not about what you're about. I got another home that God has prepared for me. I am just passing through. And while I'm passing through, I'm blessed in the process of it. While I'm passing through, He's protecting me. He's guiding me. Even though it looks like this, it doesn't matter. I can go out and I can start a company. I can go out and start a family. I can do these things, and God can bless me in the midst of it because He's the one leading and guiding me. Got to keep in mind, God is still in control of the world. You know, we seem like we lose when we look around at all that's going on and we're like, wow, so much is going bad. Do we think God can't change things? Do we think He can't turn things around? He created all this. He knows what's happening. Nothing that is taking place this day is a surprise to God. Maybe a surprise to you, but it's not a surprise to Him. He already knew this day and time things was going to take place. We have to get to the point that we're looking through life through God's eyes. Seeing what does He have? What does He have? Things are changing so much from day to day to day. Seasons are changing. We want to get to the point that as our seasons are changing each and every time, it's growing for the better and for the better. I mean, like if you go out and you start a flower garden or anything, you should know that if you started this year and you're taking care of it, if you have a couple rose bushes this year, then 3 years from now, you should have more rose bushes than you had before. It's 10 years, if you're constantly taking care of it, if it's 10 years go on, you should have more than you had then. So that eventually you can have tons of them. Because each year as the seasons change, you should get more and more and more. When you see fruit trees and stuff, you plant them. At first you may only see a couple apples on it, and then you're pruning them and you're getting rid of all the bad ones, those that weren't good. You always got to get rid of the things that aren't good. When the weeds are, you can't leave the weeds because the weeds will take over and they'll destroy and kill all the good things that you had. So you have to constantly keep pruning that negative that tries to latch itself to your life, knowing that God's taking me someplace. This can't be a part of me because it'll stop me, and we only have one rose bush. You know, I may only have a half a rose bush if I let it continue to take on, or if I only have a couple fruit, I may only have less than that if I let it keep taking place. But if I'm pruning it and I'm living right, as the years go on, I have more and I have more and I have more and I have more, because it keeps growing. Because I've noticed in serving God, there's always more. He always adds more to it. He always adds more. He doesn't take from you what He gives you. You allow the adversary to come in and take what he gives you. And it's so sad when God gives you something. He ever gives you something, and we've all been there in the world before we got saved. You know, God's blessed us with something, an abundance of something, and we didn't know how to handle it because we weren't in the Word. So we blew everything that we had. And you ever look back and say, man, if I had what I had then, now, I could have really done a lot. If I knew then what I knew now, I would be so much further. Yeah. But see, it's still not too late. We didn't know. So you get the past is the past. But we know some things now. And if we know some things now, then we need to live on the things that we know, because that's how God's going to move us within our life. That's why I tell people a lot of times it's always good to read the book of Proverbs, because the Proverbs is wisdom. If you read that, there's so much wisdom that you get from that. You may not always want to hear it, but it's still wisdom. And if you would follow that, you would be so blessed as you see in your years to come. Because so many things you do in your life, when you look back in Proverbs, you would have seen and said, you shouldn't have done it in the first place. You shouldn't have done it in the first place. It tells you every aspect of how to live your life. Raise your children, to be a wife, to be a husband, to start businesses, to have friendships, everything. It lets you know. But see, we see it, and we think we're the exception to the rule. I can do this because I know it'll work out. I understand don't normally work, but it's a little bit different in my case. You know, people can went down 1,000 times and say, but with me it's different. I know because I'm going to do it this way. And then as time goes on, what they become to me, I look at them as a waste of years, because you've done something that didn't, nothing came good from it. So now you got to start over. Whereas when you're holding on to Christ, everything He does, prospers and prospers and prospers. But you got pruning things you have to do. There are things you got to get away. It's like, I can't be a part of that when you're going through life. May look good, but no, that's not me. I can't shine in the midst of this. No, I can't go there because that's not me. There are some times you got to say no. There are some times people are going to walk from you. There is some times when you're serving Christ, you're going to be walking by yourself. Amen. And you may be walking by yourself for more than a month or two. There are some maybe times you may be walking by yourself for years. And it's like, wow, Lord, where do you have me? I'm just in this desert by myself. But you're never alone with Christ. You never can feel bad when you're giving up something negative for Christ. You never can, because he's going to bless you so much more, so much more. Or you can go ahead and do it and it's like, oh, it's only this one little thing. And then there you are. You've given up bigger blessings because you've decided to just grab hold of something that wasn't him. Like I said, the word's the same. If you go out and you do negative, negative is going to come your way. And the word says you're either walking under blessings or you're walking under curses. One or the other. You are not walking in the middle. You are not, and I don't care what you think, you are not walking in that middle path where you're getting a little bit of good and a little bit of negative. It's not so. You're either walking under blessings or you're walking under curses. Why is that? Because the word says that. It says that you're either being blessed or you're being cursed. Now, if you're being blessed and you're walking under him, then you got to believe that he has all good things in store for me. Like he says, all things works together to the good for those that love God and are called according to his purpose. Not your purpose. It's his purpose. So if you anything you're doing it in life and you're putting him first, then you have to believe, even if it seems crazy and no matter how bad it looks, God is going to turn it around for my good. Because his word says that. And he's the one that I want to get the glory out of it. It's for him. So you can't get upset. You can't get bent out of shape when it doesn't happen. It's like, whatever, I'm doing it for him. I want him to get the glory out of it. So it happens this year, next year, 2 years from now, 3 years from now. It's all good because he's the one I want to get the glory out of it. But see, we get all upset when it don't happen our time because it never was really about God. We say it's about God, but when it don't go the way we wanted to go, we get mad and don't want to talk to nobody and look all ugly because really we were the one. Because deep down in the back, we wanted the fame. We wanted the power. We wanted the highlights. We wanted all that to happen. And when it didn't happen, we got upset. But if it was about God, it didn't matter when it happened because we figured if I'm doing this for you, Lord, you're the one that's going to have to make it take place. Amen. We have to believe that everything we're doing, it's about God, and believing that in the midst of it, we can still have that joy because just like his word says, the battle's not mine, it's his. I don't have to get up fighting anything. I give it to him. It's yours, Lord. But we're going to have things in our life that we're going through. We're going to have things in our life, but know that even though it may not look like you want it to look, take time out. That's why I say it's always time to start fresh. Like he says, we need to examine ourselves daily. When you're examining yourself, I think in the midst of that, you need to take time out and ask the Lord to forgive you of all the things you did, said, and thought, because things will come through our mind that's not of God. And our mind is a place that the adversary will play with. And you can't leave crazy thoughts within your mind, negative thoughts in your mind, because if they stay there long enough, eventually you're going to act on those things. If you keep thinking about negative things, eventually you're going to act on it. That's why when something negative comes to you, you rebuke it right away and you go on. You don't play with things. You don't play with. That's why, in the word it says, if you look after a woman in lust, you've already committed the sinful act. And you would think, well, I didn't touch her. She's, whatever. But if you start playing those games, you're looking at people lusting after them. It's wrong. It's wrong. You're already walking in a sinful thing. And thing that would seem like that would kind of make sense is the fact, because if you keep playing with it in your mind, eventually you're going to act on it. You're going to act on that. The things that are in our mind needs to be great and positive things. Just like when, Thomas was reading the word, and just like we were looking at in Philippians, you have to think on the positive things. They are the things that have to stay in your mind. They're the things you speak on. You never speak something negative on yourself. You shouldn't speak things negative on anybody. If you don't have something good to say about somebody, you shouldn't say it at all. And the thing about if you do, those of us that still speak real fast, if you start speaking negative on people, then people are going to start speaking negative about you. Because there again, the Bible says, you reap what you sow. If you're talking about people, somebody's talking about you. If you're doing things so people can't be blessed, someone's going to do something that you're not blessed. If you're helping people to start things in their life to bless them, then someone's going to be there to help you. Because the word can't lie. It cannot lie. That's why we can be content wherever we are, but knowing, like I said, while we're walking in this day and time, it's like, this is just a season I'm in. Sometimes they're great seasons. Sometimes we want to stay right where we're at. You know, it's like, this is nice if I could just be right here. Sometimes you go places and it's like, oh, if I could just stay here, it's so, so nice. But reality, it was just a moment. And you got to get back to reality. You know, money clicks in, job starts up, back to where you were at. Sometimes there are great moments that you wish you could just stay there. Sometimes you're around people that you enjoy so much, you know, that visit you and you wish they didn't have to leave and go home. Sometimes there's people that there you wish they hurry up and go home. You know, it's both things. But in either case, it's still for a moment in your life. They're moments. They change. Your life will always change. Always. You can stay in one spot and never leave your house. Ever, ever, ever. For 50 years you can stay in your house. You're still going to change while you're inside the house. If anybody comes in or if nobody goes out, there's going to be change that's going to take place in you. You know, you get up one moment and parts of your bodies ain't moving like you wanted to move. You know, parts of your body's aching. You know, you're doing the same thing, eating the same food, so on and so forth. But life will change. That's just how it is. You make the best of each and every day, giving God praise in each and every day, thanking Him for the days that you gave, that He's given you. Be thankful for that. You know, the little things, because like He says, how can I continue to keep giving you things and you're not even thanking me right where you're at? If you want more in life, you want to be further in life, even though it might not be the season that you're in, you still give Him praise and you thank Him for that. It doesn't matter because you know eventually my season's going to come. You know, like I said, you're in a snowstorm, you may not like it, but believe it or not, there's people that love snow. There's people that do not like being in the hot. There are some people that actually like being in the cold. So just because you don't like being at this moment in this day and time, there's somebody down the street that may love that. Is hoping that the season stays a little bit longer. So while you're praying that the snow leaves, they're praying that it stays longer. Because they like it like that. People like different things in life, you know. And God is a God. The thing about Him, He knows that He has to be the God for all of us. Things change. They change. But it's what we want make of our life. I don't believe anyone can change our life but ourselves and Christ Himself, even within our household. Because like He tells us, in the end, we're facing our Maker by ourselves. We're accountable for what we do. And what are we doing in life? Are we at a point in our life that we have so much of an overflow that we can actually help people? People are hurting and empty. Do we have anything to help anybody? Or are we just barely making it in our own self? Just barely getting by? God didn't create us just to barely get by. That's not He created us. He created us so we could have an overflow. How do you know that to be so? We know that to be so because what does He tell us? We should leave enough for generations to come. We should leave an inheritance. What does He say? Not just for your kids, not just for your grandkids, but for your great-grandkids. You should leave enough for them. When He takes you home, you should have enough in store for them. Well, if you're having enough left for them, that means you have an abundance. You have an overflow. So in order for you to have an overflow, you have to stop thinking in this small little box that we're thinking in and start thinking bigger. And start looking at us, like I said in the beginning, looking at life like God looks at life. When we're looking through out of our eyes, how does God see this? We got to start thinking bigger. So that's why we have to see, okay, I'm in this point in my life. My bank account may be in the negative. There's nobody there helping me to do anything. But God, I know there is something inside of me that I can do, that I can get to another point in my life because you tell me I'm supposed to be the head, not the tail. So there's something inside of you that you haven't birthed out yet. There's something in you that should be taking you to another level. But because you're all bent out of shape, because you're not in the right season, because things are not looking the way you want them to look, because they look negative when you should be just looking at it, He's preparing something for me. It looks like this, but it's not always going to look like that. It's almost like when you're building a house. They have the plans and stuff all laid out, and when you go look at it, when they're starting to build, it don't look that great. And they got to tell you, even when they're telling you what they're doing, it don't even look like it's supposed to look in your mind. Unless you really have that type of a mind of a builder, it don't look like nothing until they put the walls up. All I'm seeing is through things. It doesn't make sense to me. But that doesn't mean it's not going to be a great result when it's all said and done. Just because it looks like this today, what's your life going to look like a year from now? Is it going to look like this? Do you believe your life's going to be the same place a year from now? If you believe it's going to be the same place, yes, you're going to be the same place. If you're going to believe it's going to get worse, you're going to be worse. Or if you're going to believe you're going to have so much more, something is going to take place, then it will take place. But it's what you can believe for. Sometimes, if things are coming at you all hard, take time out, go on a fast. Go on a fast for a day or two. And say, God, I need something more in my life. I need to get to the point that I'm not borrowing from this person to get this. I need to get to the point that I'm not waiting for my paycheck to come. I need to get to the point that I can be a blessing to more than just my household. Amen. I need to get to that other side, and I don't even know how to do it. I've made a lot of mistakes in my life that were wrong, but now I'm living for you, and I know it doesn't matter how old I am. It doesn't matter who or what I am. I know you tell me that I'm blessed. And now I don't know what steps to take. So I'm giving it to you, God. Show me what it is in my life that I can do so I can leave an inheritance for my great-great-grandchildren. Show me what I need to do. And in the midst of all of it, even though I'm going to leave it, I want you to get the glory out of everything that I do. I want you to get the glory out of everything that I say, wherever I go. I want to shine for you. And I want you to help me to do that, because within myself, I mess up. Ask him to keep me from temptation. He tells you should be praying that anyway. Lord, keep me from temptation. Why? Because temptation is going to try to come your way. The adversary is going to try to pull you. When you get on path, when you make that commitment to God and you go on your fast and your prayer, and it's like, okay, now it's me and you, Lord. That very next day, the adversary is going to come and try to detour you. Have somebody coming by you looking better than they ever looked before. Having something just thrown out there. It's like, you really need that. You don't want to return it, because now they're getting ready to shut my electric bill off, but I found this wallet. Different things are going to be thrown your way. And it's temptation. You're either going to walk from it, and he says he'll give you a way of escape, or you're going to fall into it. But if you fall into it, then you're going to find yourself next year the same place you are this year. And you never get to the point that you can get out of the box and start growing and start making something of yourself so you can be a blessing to more than just your household. And it's not, like I said, it's not just about the financial end of it. It's about having peace. It's about having joy. It's about being someplace and somewhere where people love you and appreciate you and care about you. You can have a mansion and be there by yourself. What's it matter if people in the house don't care about you? It doesn't mean anything. Everybody wants people in their life that love them, care about them. You want to have that restful sleep at night. And not only that, you want to wake up with a body that feels good. Because you can, have people that love you and your whole body hurts, then still it's like, Lord, heal me, heal me, heal me. So there's so much, because what? We do serve an awesome God. There is so much he can and will do in your life if you can believe him for. Don't matter what the doctor says. The doctor says this and that, but my God can take care of this. You can either hold on to the negative, or you can rebuke the negative. I'm not saying the doctor gives you medicine, don't take it, but we can believe that he can stop you, get you to a point that you don't need it, that you can go back one day and he says, you don't need this no more. I don't know why, but hey, you don't need this anymore. That's the God that we serve. It's whatever you can believe him for. You can believe it's going to change, or you can believe this is where you're going to be the rest of your life. I look at it, I know in my life I've seen changes take place all the time within my life. All the time. And it still changes. It's still constantly. But it's all good, because as long as God's in the midst of each change, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter for my summer months, my winter months, fall months, doesn't matter. As long as God's with me, I'm good. It doesn't matter. And that's where we need to get to the point in our life. As long as God is with me, it's okay. Because you're going to realize it's going to come to a point in your life, if you serve God long enough, and you really believe in him, you're going to get to a point and you're going to know in your life that anything that's ever really going to take place in your life is going to have to be God that does it. If you ever want anything major in your life to take place, you're going to realize it's not even you that's doing it. It's God. If he's not doing it, it's not going to get done. Because he says, I'll open doors that no man will shut. But I'll shut doors that no man will open. If he shuts something in your life, I don't care who you know and I don't care what you got, there's no way you're ever going to go through it. But in the same sense, if he says this is yours, then it's yours. And I don't care who comes against you. I don't care what people say about you. I don't care how broke you are. I don't care if you went bankrupt. I don't care what took place in your life. If God says it's yours, it's yours. So you got to get to the point that you trust and believe God, because why? There's going to be the Goliaths in your life, like it was with David he had in his life. That was a Goliath, a giant in his life. But even when he went to him to destroy him, he said, it ain't me. It ain't the sword. It's not by my might. It's God. It's him that's going to bring it down. God's going to be the one in your life that's going to have to take down strongholds in your life. He's going to have to be the one that's going to have to start building things up in your life. It's got to be him, because he's the one that's going to give you the wisdom to accomplish the things. He's the one that's going to give you the power to do things. He's the one that's going to place people in your life to help you. But when it's all said and done, it's still God. It is still God. So how can you take him out of the midst of wanting to go someplace if it's ultimately him, the one that's doing it? So trust him in your season. Be thankful for the seasons that you're in. Even, coming here in this room, it's like, hey, things have a little bit different. We came up here and we had Bible study in here, and we prayed over it. And I said, you know what? We're not going to complain. We're not going to bicker, because for whatever reason, this is where the Lord would have us at right now. Now, it could be different things. Sometimes God puts you in places to make you open up your eyes and says, okay, now you need to start looking for something else. Sometimes he makes you uncomfortable so he can move you to bigger things. And sometimes he has you places because he wants you to be a blessing to somebody else. So you don't know why. Or sometimes he moves you from places because something bad could happen in the place you were at and he's removed you from it. But in whatever case, if you're serving him, if you're moved, it's him that moved you. If you're serving him. I know that I'm serving him. I know I haven't deviated from him, so I'm okay wherever he takes me at. I'm good with it. And I don't complain in the situation that I'm in, because then I can miss the blessing that he has for me when I'm in the place. You miss it because you're so tangled up in the complaint of, why am I here? Why isn't this happening? Why didn't I get this promotion? Why didn't I get this job? Why didn't they like me? Why am I not with them? So many things you complain about. Be thankful, whatever it is. Like, okay, I'm thankful, Lord. Don't understand it. I don't have to understand it. As long as you got it, I'm good. And he says, I'll never leave you nor forsake you. I'll never leave you nor forsake you. He orders our steps. He loves us. So be thankful for the seasons that you're in. But know that with seasons, there always comes change. Always comes change. And what we're looking for is a positive change. A positive change. When the season comes, when your season comes, and our seasons will come at different times. They all ain't gonna come the same. Don't be looking when somebody else's seasons come. That may not be your season. Your season's gonna come when God says your season's gonna come. Yes. Because what does he say? The vision is yet for an appointed time. Wait for it. It'll surely come. But it's for an appointed time. The time that God has appointed in your life for everything to open up, for things to change. Make sure you're where you're supposed to be at when that time comes. Don't let the appointed time come for your blessing to come and you over here someplace because you got tired of waiting, because you started complaining. Now you can't hear from the Lord because you're complaining it didn't happen. And God said, I told you. All you have to do is wait for it. We got to work after what we want, not just laying around and expecting people to hand it to us, because he also says what? Faith without works is dead. So you give your all to it. Doesn't matter if people say they're going to help you. It doesn't matter. You still do your best. Don't look around what other people's doing. You look around what other people's doing, you're going to get discouraged and you ain't going to want to do nothing. Worry about what you're doing. You do the best that you're doing, knowing that God is looking at you for what you're doing. He's not looking at the whole room saying, well, everybody didn't raise their hand today. Everybody didn't praise me, so ain't none of you getting nothing. He's seeing what those ones that were praising him. You're being dealt with accordingly to you, accordingly to what you're doing. If you're going to give an abundance is going to come your way. Don't be looking around what people say to yourself. I'm going to do more than what everybody else is doing because I want more. I want more. I want more than enough. If you want more than enough, you want things that no one can even imagine. When he says you can have whatever your mind can imagine, the word says that. Anything you can think of, you could do. Because that's the God that we serve. We just can't think that big. We only can think of what the next person thinks, or what we see wrote down, what somebody else did. We can believe it if we see it. If we don't see it, we can't believe it. And God says, you need to start thinking a little bit bigger. Start creating things. Be that person. Be that person that we're doing so much more. And be thankful that the season that we're in, waking up and say, God, I thank you right now where I'm at, because I know the season that I'm in, you got a whole lot in store for me. And I'm ready to start reaping what you have for me. Praise God.